Though they may have millions in their bank accounts now, these celebrities grew up pinching their pennies. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 famous people who grew up in poverty.
Keep knocking, nobody's home. I'm sleepwalking. I'm just relaying what the voice in my head saying. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just friends with the
monster. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're looking at celebrities who spent their childhood or adolescent years in poverty, not those who struggled with it later on in life. Rougher upbringings that stemmed from financial difficulties will also count. Number 10. Jim Carrey. The rubber-faced funny man didn't exactly have a childhood to laugh at.
Initially, we were kind of lower middle class, and then we went in the dumper, you know?
Carrey grew up on the lower end of middle class, but was thrust into the world of hard labor and poverty after his father lost his factory job. Taking odd positions as a janitor and a security worker to help his family make ends meet, Carrey eventually dropped out of high school. The comedian was even forced to live in a van temporarily after the family's meager earnings weren't enough to keep their house. Though it's hard to imagine such a happy-go-lucky individual having such a rough start, he managed to make it through.
Have you guys heard this one? Oh!
Number 9. Jay-Z. Born into the rough, poverty-stricken Marcy projects in Brooklyn, the rap icon was surrounded by drugs and gang violence as a child. Jay-Z turned to rap to both help him cope with his environment and to express many of the emotions he was feeling. Hustling for other drug dealers and selling on his own, the rapper used his earnings to help make ends meet for himself and his family.
You know, it forces you to grow up really fast, and it's kind of sad because it robs you of your innocence.
Now a tycoon in the music and fashion industries, Jay-Z's music still echoes his humble and difficult beginnings and speaks to the struggles of being poor in the projects.
I'ma play the corners where the hustlers be, I told them.
Number 8. Shania Twain.
You and I will never be apart.
Growing up in the isolated community of Timmins, Ontario, Twain spent her earliest days learning to deal with hardships at every turn. Her mother and stepfather frequently fought, and they struggled to put food on the table.
And on the other side of a wall, you could hear your father beating your mother.
Bouncing between homeless shelters and labor-intensive work camps, the future superstar scraped by on what she could. At age 8, Twain began singing in bars and earned $20 per late-night set. And at 13, she caught a bigger break when she performed on The Tommy Hunter Show to a national audience. Twain credits her passion for music as her driving force, and still holds the memory of her humble roots close.
The best thing about being an orphan is the prerogative to have a little fun.
Number 7. Kendrick Lamar. Never shying away from his rough upbringing in the city of Compton, Lamar grew up subsisting off welfare and living in state-supported housing through the Housing Act of 1937, otherwise known as Section 8. His family also had ties to numerous gangs in the area, and witnessing violence was a part of his upbringing.
We'd always debate like, damn, I hate going to the summer school class because we gotta walk home at this time in the summertime where we know the war likes to pop off.
Referencing his financial difficulties as a child in his music, Lamar has channeled both the fear and fortitude that he gained in his youth into lyrical works of art.
I know murder, conviction, burners, boosters, burglars, ballers, dead, redemption, scholars, fathers dead with kids, and I wish I was fed forgiveness.
Joining a league of famous rappers from Compton, Kendrick made the best out of a tough situation and became a legend. Number 6. Viola Davis. Most of us are lucky enough to know where our next meal comes from, but some don't share the same privilege. Award-winning actress Viola Davis has been vocal about her experience growing up in, quote, abject poverty, with her experiences ranging from living in rat-infested housing to stealing and dumpster diving for food. A passionate advocate for the eradication of hunger, Davis has since used her difficult upbringing to give a powerful voice to those who have none.
I just remember waking up every day and wondering what I was going to eat, if I was going to eat.
Turning a horrible situation into a conversation around the issue of children's hunger, Davis turned her turmoil into a tool. Number 5. Demi Moore. For some, growing up in a world of poverty is only one of many issues. Raised by her alcoholic mother and stepfather, Moore didn't have the brightest, most promising childhood. The actress grew accustomed to moving regularly, as her stepfather frequently switched jobs, which added another level of instability to an already uncertain childhood. Her home life eventually saw her parents separate, her mother have troubles with the law, and her stepfather commit suicide. Crediting her adaptive abilities as an actor to her challenging and unstable earlier years, Moore's struggles as a child provided a framework for her career. Number 4. Eminem.
Call me crazy, but I had this vision. One day that I'll walk amongst you, a regular civilian.
Using an aggressive and honest style of rap to escape his environment, Eminem frequently uprooted between Missouri and Michigan, eventually growing up in a poverty-ridden and divided neighborhood on the edge of Detroit. Struggling in school and often being beaten up between classes, the young pre-fame rapper spent his free time burying himself in songwriting and rap battling. Raised by his single mother in the rundown neighborhood off 8 Mile Road, Eminem's childhood was spent below the poverty line, a line that marked the beginning of a road to international stardom.
I can only tell you what it feels like, and right now it's a steel knife in my windpipe.
Number 3. Elvis Presley.
It's burning through to my soul.
Though he's one of the most iconic figures in music history, Presley had the humblest of beginnings. Living in a hastily built 2-room house, Presley's family often depended on welfare and the goodwill of neighbors to help keep them afloat. His father struggled with holding a job and was eventually jailed for fraud, costing the family their home. Through the trials and tribulations of his upbringing, including surviving a tornado in 1936, Presley still found the time to sing and practice on his guitar, and his talent would eventually prove to be his ticket out of the rut he grew up in. Number 2. Celine Dion. Being poor means different things to different people. Growing up in a busy household with 13 siblings, Dion's family scraped by on a very low income, although she remembers it as a happy upbringing. Singing as a child in her family's piano bar, Celine's path towards international stardom was humble, until her manager and future husband René Angelil took the major risk of mortgaging his house in order to produce her first record. Money remained an issue for a large portion of Celine's childhood. Of course, that all changed when she opened her mouth and the world heard that unmistakable voice. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Let's put it this way, there is in Scott Landon's life, there's the whole childhood is a secret.
And then also the fact that this movie shines a bright light on a very flawed judicial system in the United States.
I borrowed the car when I was 12 years old.
What?
Yes.
That doesn't sound like a borrow.
No, it's borrowed. Because I brought it back.
It's called stealing.
I brought it back. No, it's borrowed.
Okay.
Borrowed because you bring it back.
Sure.
Number 1. Oprah Winfrey.
No, because when you are living it and you don't know anything else, you think that's the way life is.
The talk show host has gone from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs, beginning with a childhood that's enough to give one nightmares. Struggling with feelings of isolation and abandonment, much of Oprah's youth was spent with her grandmother, who lived in a poor rural community. With money being tight, she wore potato sacks instead of dresses, and reportedly even had a doll made out of an old cob of corn. Suffering sexual and physical abuse from her family, all the while bouncing between living with her mother, father, and grandmother, the television legend has suffered more than most.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.